Morning, colleagues. Morning. How are you?
I can't complain, so.
I'm just peeping through. I have a higher degree meeting to attend, but I'm so jealous that I'm going to miss your presentation. Yes, man.
The beauty about this is it's going to be recorded anyway.
Yeah, but you know, it's not the same as when you're listening to the person and you can ask questions here and there.
Yeah, and I think we're going to miss your valuable contributions, and the questions that you are going to pose.
Yeah, well, anyway, we will see, Melvin. I just wanted to let you know, my friend, so that you don't think that this man is not even attending my session. It's very important for me.
Yeah.
But I have a higher degree meeting to attend. But enjoy the presentation.
Thank you very much, man.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye then. Bye.
Morning, colleagues.
Morning, Melvin.
How are you, Mamsi?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing? Morning, colleagues.
Good morning, Melvin. How are you?
Good yourself?
Well, thank you. I'll be with you guys at 9 o'clock.
Good.
colleagues, do I start? Is there somebody else starting?
Morning, Prof.
Morning. Can I start or
Can you start after the song finishes? Just
okay, we can.
A few seconds.
Sure, sure.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for availing yourselves for this session. I'm going to hand over to Prof. Devet to introduce the session and our presenters. Prof. Devet.
Good morning, colleagues. Can I just ask everyone to mute their...
I think you're muted, Prof.
No, I'm not muted. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, thanks.
Yes,
Good morning. I'm Tia de Wet. I'm the Senior Director for ADS. And I would really like to welcome all of you. And
I can't hear you, Prof. Can anyone hear, Prof?
Yes, we can.
We can hear, Prof.
Yes, we can.
Remember, you have turned your volume down now with the choir, so just turn it back up.
Thank you. I'm back on.
Okay, everyone. I just want to welcome you and say thank you. I know how busy everyone is. And thank you very much for Angie and her colleagues to organize this opportunity. Your support is really appreciated. So the Division of Academic Planning, Quality Control and Academic Staff Development organizes these masterclass sessions to provide academics with a platform for discussion and engagement. And I think it has been hugely successful. And the reason for that is the aim of the masterclasses is to look at modeling and sharing insights on different strategies that could improve teaching and learning, particularly as we continue to engage in remote teaching. So today's session is the 13th to be hosted in 2021. And I think that is remarkable. And if I look at the attendance, it's actually probably the best attended type of sessions, workshops, webinars across the university. Today it will be presented by Dr. Louw and Mr. Melvin Damons. The topic for this session is Quality Matters in Online Module Design. And the purpose of this session is to engage in a discussion on why quality matters in online module design. And the focus today is not necessarily on the content, but actually on the design once you have the content. So we would like to ensure that designed courses undergo constant review, first by yourself, and then sometimes by your peers and by people from the outside. we will eventually meet expectations based on these guided standards provided, which is international standards and practices. And I really want to make sure that people understand this is not a new KPI. This is just a new tool to ensure that you can self-evaluate. We've been using it very successfully in our online-only courses, the HEPSA modules, and we subscribe to this annually. And so this is a wonderful tool for everybody to use to make sure that their own design is at a really high standard. Just ask people again to just mute themselves. Okay, so the two presenters today, the first one that I want to quickly highlight is Dr. Louw. He is currently an instructional designer at CAT. He has a master's degree and a PhD with a focus on web-based education. And he's been involved in curriculum development in the implementation of computer courses involving integration, application, implementation, plus evaluation for a very long time. Arno was a teacher in his former life at Metropolitan Rauch Hall, the UJ Academy, and a part-time lecturer at University of Johannesburg. His research and implementation focuses on e-learning in the field of professional development of teaching staff at the University of Johannesburg. And since 2017, Arno has been the senior specialist for e-learning and instructional design and manages the Center for Academic Technologies CAT Lab, which is a thinking, innovative e-learning development laboratory. So many of you probably have already used that. Mr. Melvin Damons is an instructional designer at CAT, and he's responsible for online module design, lecture and student training, guidance with content development, alignment and quality assurance of content. He holds a master's degree in education management and is currently studying towards a PhD in human resource management. His work focuses on empowering staff and students to be totally competent and independent in navigating our learning management system and all supplementary apps that we plug in. He also wants to acquaint staff with the latest functionalities of the system and share ideas on new technological research and educational trends that are available. So colleagues, you are today in the hands of two people with a lot of experience, and I hope you enjoy this session. Feel free to engage with the colleagues at the end of the presentation, and over to you, Melvin and Arno. And thanks again, Angie, Megan, and colleagues for the opportunity that we could use your platform. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Prof. Tia, and thank you for that warm introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So what we are going to do today, and that's why I'm not sharing my camera immediately, is because we are going to co-share our screens between me and Melvin. So we are going to look at this quality of online learning material and how courses look like online. Now, through many years, rubric has been developed to give us an internationalization standard. So we are of meaning that if people evaluate their own courses and go through designing or putting up something in Blackboard by means of using these standards and rubric, then you will definitely pluck the fruit from your students as well. I can also say that if one looks at the rationale behind this, just remember, although we are teaching a class, there are still individuals behind a device following what is happening on the screen and going through the learning material. So that's the perspective that we use when we look at a quality standard and what really the verb matters in these things. So I just want to share with you also that this presentation and all related material is available online. And as we continue, we will also show you where it is available in through our platform Blackboard, our learning management system. So if we look at what is important related to this is we are using a rubric. And a rubric is trustworthy because it has gone through a lot of development to give us an accurate measure to see what is happening. And I'm going to use the word in a specific product. In this case, your product is a course, and more so an online course. So we take international research and we got to companies who has done this before, and that's why the online courses of UJ has been successful, because it goes through this evaluation process. So during this session, I am going to look at these 8 standards, and I'll be discussing what it is about. And then continuously we will share screens, Melvin and myself, and Melvin will show you exactly how and where it is implemented in certain online courses and at stages in an exemplary online course. So I'm just browsing through them quickly. We are going, we look at if a course has a module overview and an introduction. If there's learner support given, and if those learners related to teaching and learning know what they should be able to do, the outcomes. Then how would one assess, or is there provision to assess specifically those outcomes, nothing else than the outcomes? And is how would it be measured, and is it measurable? Then is there material leading the student to that? What activities should the student do to be able to acquire knowledge, interaction, to be able to reach those outcomes, to prove that it has been reached to a certain level within the assessment? Then what technology will be used, and does the student need to be able to complete this module? And then a very important topic, accessibility and usability. We try to cater for that as far as possible, and that means it has to do with design, colors. Do we cater for people who might be colorblind? What about the deaf? What about hearing impaired people, visually impaired people? And how friendly, how easy is this course to use if a person has got some form of disability or wants to use it in a different way, like a mobile device? So let's jump in there to the standards quickly and see how the standards were adapted for the quality matters and quality insurance. So one can give oneself a possible score, a final score, or I want to use the word judge, whether that specific standard has been reached or not in the course before presenting it. And in online, it is even more visible than on paper integrated with face-to-face or a book, a textbook. Right, so there, if we look at these 8 standards, we look at the 8 standards and see that they are all balanced in the module. So maximum scores that can be given would be a 3, a 2, or a 1. This is the quick evaluation and overview. Then one puts down a score for yourself, or if you look at someone's course, and also say whether that has been met or not met yet. So the missing a standard in the entirety is partially not detrimental to your module. If you, for instance, have a practical course and the interaction would be between you and the student in a laboratory or a studio, then obviously in the course it should be mentioned, but it won't place the quality of your online course, make it less good than a course where interaction with online interaction is introduced. So the scores are allocated per importance of the item mentioned, between 1 and 3. There's no partial points like 3 and or 2.5 or 1.5. It is all or that specific number you give. One can obtain a total of 111 points because the rubric is quite elaborated, but it's very easy to follow. And then if you see that the total of this is less than 75, roundabout to 85, it indicates that the module needs to be revisited and some changes need to be done to the module or additions. Right, so standard 1. And I'm going to run through these 9 points briefly, and then Melvin is going to show you where it is or how it looks like in an online course. The first standard is about the overview and the introduction. So a student opens this course, and they must immediately know what it is about and what to do. So at point 1, are the instructions clear on how to get started and where to find the components in the module? Those would be other websites, literature, discussion groups, all of these things that we use. I don't like the word tools as much in a discussion or in Blackboard, but if you want to refer to it, it can be seen as tools. So there would be a point out of 3 or less. Then the learners are introduced to the purpose and the structure of the module. People often remember or forget to put the structure of the module in, and that is very important. Some lecturers use mind maps, others give them a type of an outline like a table of contents, just as long as the mental structure for what to expect is drawn in the mind. It's part of cognitive behaviorism. Then the communication expectations must be written down for online discussions, emails, or any form of interaction. So one might mention there, if you use foul language in the discussion forum, you will be prohibited to continue in the discussion. See that you use the correct academic language. Use something like Grammarly.com to check before you post or you put something in the chat. Do not make it a marketing area. It's merely for academic purposes. 1.4. The module and the institutional policies, what is expected, where it is available. So you don't have to load all the academic policies in each and every course. You can just put a link in saying to students, this course adheres and entails everything that is written in these academic policies. You may read them or find these policies at and maybe the URL given. 1.5, the minimum technology requirements. So you can use your cell phone for the course. You can use the computer lab to follow the interaction or to do the course. You should see that you have a Wi-Fi connection. Those things needed, the basic needs for the course. In other words, what will the shoes be that you have to wear to be able to walk this journey? And 1.6, what computer skills would be required? In other words, if you are going to use Microsoft Word for students to submit assignments, you must be able to do your assignment in Microsoft Word. or you can go to this website and follow the link here. Use Office 365 and ensure that you can save your documents for submission. Well, 1.7, the expectations or the pre-knowledge, if anything is required for a specific competency or competencies required. So if it's let's say a semester 2 course or a new course, but it's on a slight level where students must at least, let's say, have access to a laboratory if they do chemistry, or they must have a model of molecules, or they must at least have an A5 page or an A0 page for a portfolio to make drawings or so. And they should have completed a course already. All those prerequisites will be stated, or knowledge that a student should have or have acquired prior to the specific module you're presenting. Then 1.8, the introduction by the instructor and the contact details. And then 1.9, a learner support forum, where students can introduce themselves and ask questions. So that all resorts under Standard 1 about the module overview and the introduction. Right, I'm now handing over to Melvin, who will just show you how it looks like online. Right, Melvin, you muted.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much and good morning, colleagues. I think all of us should be in pursuit of designing excellent content to give the user or the student a pleasant navigational experience throughout, with all learnings, tools, and interaction included. And what I would like to say is that quality matters needs to be contextualized. This is more than a set of standards listed on a website or wherever and explained in annotations of a rubric. We also have to look at the universal design principles. It is an approach with multiple validated processes that is applied in various higher institutions, organizational, departmental cultures as exhibited by different levels of quality matters implementation. So that being said, the informal use of the tools and processes, for example, in self-assessment, and I think, Arno, you've mentioned it's about self-assessment of the course before, like I always say, you press the button and the module becomes live and you have the world looking at your module. So it becomes a reflective practices of a purpose. So we as instructional designers or IDs and course designers use rubrics or this particular rubric as a guiding document to assist us or people who design courses in the creation of courses designed to meet standards from the onset. So this rubric is also used to assess the level to which a course meets standards and highlights the areas of improvement. So this is an example. I'm looking at one of the examples in a flexible template or flexible module. I'll be steering or toggling between one that we use that you see in front of you and one from the education faculty that we've been working on close cooperation or collaboration with the lecturers involved. So Arno has mentioned the welcome page, and in front of you, you see the welcome page with a banner. And the unfortunate aspect about the 8 standards is that you cannot compartmentalize all of them in the separate units. It's integrated in the content in the menu on your left-hand side. So I'll be toggling between the 2 modules to compare what we had and where we're going to in terms of the progress made over the year. So we have a welcome page, the module introduction. On your left-hand side, I first want to tackle the menu, the announcements, meet your lecturer, the student support forum as indicated, and then we're going to the themes, the weeks, the units, whatever you as a lecturer will name or terminizes units or the working content that you have in your menu. So I want to interrogate the welcome page first, and then I'm going to go over to Arno just to have a sort of a format in terms of how we go about. So the welcome page, you have your banner, and your banner, we have a style sheet included. Like I said, all the information is embedded. You have to acknowledge the usage or where you extracted the particular banner. Like you see, the banner has been, the source is the pixabay.com, and the size of the banner is also indicated in the style sheet. It's 1200 by 600 millimeters there. So the banner is there, and then just briefly, the welcome page. Welcome to the Bachelor's of Human Resource Management program. I've been working on this program when we started with the online program. It gives you an idea of the NQF level and the number of credits and the purpose of the overarching qualification. And it also gives you an indication in terms of the skills, values, and attributes and knowledge to be acquired by the students who are on this particular program. And then you will have a curriculum program as a PDF inserted. You have the accessibility assistance as a PDF inserted, and also how to log on to Blackboard without using the ULink PDF. So these are all PDF documents that you can access on your own time. But some of the lecturers, and I know in the education faculty, I'm going to say we in the education faculty because I've been working with the majority of the lecturers in the online program. We have dissected and we have integrated our curriculum program in our content throughout. And we did not have we did not give a PDF format document to say that this is the program and this is how the program would be looking like. There is space made available for this, but we chose to dissect it and integrate it throughout. So this is the welcome page, and this is the information. I'm not going to interrogate all of it as we go about. I will just click on the PDF link so that you can see what the content behind the PDF document is. After the welcome, you could, and I'm saying could, welcome yourself in terms of who you are, what you do. Just highlight this and give a sort of a brief bio of yourself. You can insert a picture of yourself, and then students will know who you are, who the lecturer will be for this particular industrial psychology 2B, for example, will be with the email address. But Blackboard has also made provision for contact details or create a profile. I'll be toggling to that one so that you can see how it looks like. So the lecturer's information is there, the contact details, consultation hours, and the tutor's information. Now this is an example of how it could pan out or how it looks in this particular flexible module. You can also steer to meet your lecturer where you have the contact. Let me just open this so that you can see how it looks. We have the lecturer there, that wired up, and this is his briefly his hours, his days on campus, where he could be located, his telephone details, office hours, and also his email. Then you have Dr. David James, and there's a picture of him, and then one of the tutors, Miss Lucia D, also have a picture. I will also show you a different approach in terms of how this context could be inserted in your module. Then what Arno alluded to is the student support forum. I think once we started with the master's program in education, we included one student support forum for academic purposes only, and then we included the student support forum for technical purposes, where students who struggle to log on to Blackboard, who struggle to open an application, who needs assistance in navigation of Blackboard or other software applications used in the content will log onto that particular forum where you have a dedicated tutor sitting behind the screens and assisting through a thread and give some guidance in terms of how you navigate to and through Blackboard. For the academic support, whatever students need support in terms of material, lecturer did not explain well, for instance, the tutors are more willing to assist in terms of how lecture go about, and you find that many students find solace in tutors instead of phoning a lecturer. They first want to, navigate into even in a WhatsApp group as well. Did you understand a particular concept that the lecturer explained, yes or no? And they can pan out and create study forums and study groups in WhatsApp forums that's linked to the student support forum. And this is where I'm going to stop for the moment, Arno.
Thank you very much, Mel. I'm just jumping back to my screen quickly. So in summary, there must be instructions for Standard 1, the purpose of the module, a bit of manners, netiquette, policies, requirements, and a support platform. Right, so if we look at the next slide there, the Standard 2 is the learner support. So here it is summarized, and I can just briefly say who or where can the students phone or email for technical support. Then emotional or the general support we have at UJ, study support like SciCAD and ADC, and other resources, which is all available in ULink as well. So it is good just in the introduction to remind students that of where they can find the resources just to log in. And from here on, the educational principle of making the student feel safe and welcome has been established. So it's important that they also can see or know who their direct lecturer and tutor is, as Melvin said, and then the additional support in the environment, the learning environment. So those would be included, and it can be done in many forms. So our learning outcomes, which is a crucial and integral part of the whole online module, is to let students know exactly these 5 things, and they are contained in the outcomes. How will the program be assessed? And that is so the student knows when he or she has worked through the course, submitted the activities, assignments, have done tests, why they're doing it, and to where it is going, clearly mentioned in the outcomes. The module or the unit level and the learning outcomes or competencies are described and measurable.
Not working.
Someone's microphone is on.
Those guys.
Oh, I got a new phone. Direction.
Right. Kwanda, your microphone is on. Right. Then 3.3, learning outcomes are aligned to the activities, so they are not loose standing. Many times I look at courses, and I've seen courses where people say, right, you have to draw a diagram or a mind map of this chapter and read the following article. Then the article is about the topic, but the chapter isn't even addressed. These things are not aligned. It has nothing to do with each other. And in this context, one must also be very careful of over-assessment, so that we don't give a lot of little facts to students and assess them on each one of the smaller facts. But our activities we give students must align with the content, must align with the assessments, must align with the outcomes. The relationship between the outcomes and the competencies and the learning activities are clearly stated. Say to students, write an essay about, let's say, the current economic status in South Africa. Or say to them, you write an essay because you have to report on the current status of the economics in South Africa. Tell them why they are doing the assignment. That is very important. Tell them why. Right, and then 3.5, the learning outcomes or the competencies are suited to the level of the course. So that's where Bloom's taxonomy comes in. Is it, do I only evaluate facts? Do I evaluate and assess applications? Winnie, your camera is on. Right? Winnie, your camera is on. Okay, so those are the things that's definitely a standard that we're going to have a look at. Melvin, do you want to show everyone where that is allocated in the course?
Arno, would you carry on until standard 4? Then I can incorporate.
Okay, perfect. Because as Mel also said, they are integrated. So when I look at the outcomes, and I now must be able to say how I am going to assess the outcomes. Right. Paul, your microphone is on. Right. Okay. Winnie, your camera is still on. Winnie Similani, your camera is on. Right. So if I look at assessment and measurement, the assessments obviously are aligned. So you can see that's kind of a trait, or let's call it a light theme that comes out from the beginning up till here. It must be aligned. And also saying that if even a CETA or someone looks at accreditation of a course, this is the main thing they look at first of all. It can be beautifully window dressed and full of bling, but if these things don't align, they send the course back. And it has an effect on the student at the end, because it's a simple question of, do they know where they're going with what they're doing and how it aligns with the next part they are going to do. So the course grading policy should definitely be given, preferably in the learning guide. 50% would be practical, 50% would be theory, or however you do the grading scheme, and the weighting of the totals for the column. So that students realize I'm not only doing this for marks, but there's a balance between the different aspects of the course. Clear instructions are provided on how learners will be evaluated. So you say to them, you are going to write a test about this right in the beginning of the course. The assignment you are going to hand in will be marked or assessed according to, and give it to them, this rubric. You will see Blackboard provides for showing students the rubric and showing them the marked rubric. Because how else are you going to create an expectation or a standard of what is expected from the student? We always say, please show us an example, but the students want the same thing. But if you give them a rubric, they know what the best level of expectation can be. Then the assessments are sequenced, and there are various forms of assessment, and it's suited to the level of the module. So it's not too difficult for basic module work, and it is not too easy for application as well. There must be a challenge for the mind in there. So those things are quite important. Then also the assessments should be sequenced and varied. So maybe I won't only use tests. Maybe I can use students to hand in something like a PowerPoint, which I can mark with a rubric. Or I might give students an essay and they must mark their own essay and send you the mark back and say why they've given them themselves these marks. So there must be multiple opportunities for students to get or to do the work. And of course, a rubric is always a good way of timely giving feedback to students, to say to them what should be done, how it was done, and why they got the specific mark. Right. So that's the 4th standard, and it aligns perfectly to the 3rd standard on outcomes. Right, Melvin, over to you.
I don't know, before you move on, I just put a question in the chat.
Oh, the sequence. It will come out now. Maybe it's very important. I will address the questions at the end, but at this stage I can just quickly say a sequence means that first you might give students a video. Secondly, you might give them a summary in 1 or 2 slides on a PowerPoint. Third, they will have to do something, an activity. For instance, evaluate this essay. And fifth might be to write a test. So it means that the assessment and the building up of how you want to get students to the outcome, how you build up to get there, is in a neat sequence. It's like a ladder they are climbing, and it does not always have to end with an assessment. So in brief, that is how you sequence your events inside a course. What happens first, what happens second, and so on. Okay, Melvin, over to you.
Thank you, Arno. And thank you for the question, Kevin. I'm going to the module information. I hope you can see the screen in front of you in terms of the Industrial Psychology 2B as an example. The lecturer will introduce the topic or the content of the industrial psychology. Now here we have ample examples of what other lecturers prefer to do. Instead of giving a text introduction, some of the lecturers will do a recording in terms of the expectation of the industrial psychology as an example, content. The lecturer will also include or explain the module outcomes as stated there, the 1 to 7. The type of activities that the students are expected or will be expected to engage in or will be doing in terms of watching videos, studying a number of articles, completing a number of assessments, assignments and integrated assessments. The lecturer can also ask in terms of the assessment, taking it in your own pace and by which day a particular assignment needs to be submitted and completed and stuff like that. Then we have an outline of a course. Now I deliberately inserted this format so that we can ask questions later on in terms of the accessibility purposes and the ally functionality in Blackboard. Now, if by any chance you are unable to dissect or display your theme, your weeks, or your unit in such a fashion, there's also a linear approach, and it's not a train smash like indicated earlier. Now, on your left-hand side, you'll see the theme. I'm just going to explain one block, the theme, and it will be covered in 3 weeks. And these are the units that the lecturer will be covered in 6 or 7 weeks. So you have a bird's eye view in terms of the expectation for this themes, weeks, and units, and the student can gear him or herself towards the completion of the unit 1 to unit 6. Then the study material that will be made available as indicated in one of the standards, I think it's standard 4, in terms of you will expected to engage in a number of instructional material, and the lecturer will give a link, which is advisable many a time so that the student don't have to scroll around, rush to the library, and don't get the resources that the lecturer indicated. So a number of topics will be covered. Slides will be given to the students. Online reading and videos will be provided. practical exercises from a textbook. Now, some of the textbook will be provided in a form of an e-textbook or e-learning textbook and so on. Then the prescribed material will be embedded in a PDF document for those students who wish to download the document and rush to the library or go to the library. Also, the guiding document in terms of the UJ Dalro sheet has been included. This is where the lecturer will sort of ask for a permission by Miriam and her team in terms of the accessibility, the electronic course reverse, so that the lecturer can complete it. Some of the lecturers wants to include chapters of books, for instance, on Blackboard, and you need to have permission, or some of the lecturers have written certain chapters in books and want their material to be displayed on Blackboard. So you need to have a permission from the library side, and there's also a document that you need to complete in order for you to have your material displayed on Blackboard. Then there's the expectation of the study hours as indicated by the qualification, and which level are we engaging, the number of hours in the module and the hours per week that the student should be engaging in. Then the learner guide, we have, like I indicated, there will be a different format of the learner guide. You can click and the learner guide can be made available to you as a PDF document. Like I also indicated earlier, the education faculty has dissected their learning guide in and embedded it in the course material so that you don't have to click and download a 200-page document from Blackboard. Then, as Arno indicated, the weighting and the measure, the assessment and assignments, the mark allocation, the possible allocated marks, the weighting of the marks should be upfront, and I indicated upfront so that the student can gear himself or herself towards which of the material or assignments or assessments count heavier or weight heavier than others, and focus your or her attention on those particular assignments if you are that particular student to work in that fashion, or you want to just as a general student focus on all the material at once in the mark allocation. And also you have a transcript if you want to download it and so on. Then you have the student support forum as indicated in terms of where to get help. And again, I'm saying there's a different format of this as well. The support is indicated for students if you want help in terms of your student number, how if you lost or forgot your student login details, where to go to for academic support, for writing assistance. You can go to the academic support center. If you have psychological or personal issues or concerns, you can address it with psych-ed. And again, I'm saying other faculties, and I know some of the departments have dissected this very neatly in a table format, indicating who the people from the head up until the last person who renders assistance to students in the psych-ed department. Then we have the UJ rules, regulations, policies, declaration, the online submission that will be accompanied with the online declaration is inserted there. And then the last one is just what Arno indicated in terms of the netiquette, the mannerism in which you will conduct yourself in terms of the netiquette once you take part in a discussion forum, support forum, student support forum, WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, and so on. So there's a particular guideline in terms of what to use and what not to use academically. And lastly, just a discussion board, a link so that you can introduce yourself in terms of seeking support as a student wanting to meet other students and so on. Then I quickly just want to jump over to the Unit 1 as indicated by Arno. I'm just going to share one aspect of this Unit 1 in terms of the outcomes that Arno has been addressing. This is what you want to do. Again, the welcoming of this particular unit, the reasons for doing this unit, and then the outcomes. And by the end of this activity, you should be able to explain, identify, select, and so on. So the number of activities, and this is the alternative format in which you can displayed in terms of a table. It's linear. And what we also included in this unit activity is your PowerPoint presentation, the unit address here, with the outcomes that we are addressing. Will it be outcomes A to D, or outcomes B, and so on. And also a link with the different activities and the different reading material videos are all embedded here in this particular item. Then watch the video, it also included there. Watch a video, the outcomes address that's been aligned to the outcomes, and it's outcome number 6 or outcome number 7 or outcome number B or C. It's how you list your outcomes in terms of numerical values or letters or whatever. Then the task, it's clearly indicated here. You will be doing a quiz, discussion, and assignment, and that's a due date, and that's a mark allocation so that the students exactly are aware of the expectations of the quiz and the discussion and the assignment. Also, watch the video. The lecturer will also include a video, explain the video, and also include a transcript, especially for accessibility concerns for those students who struggle to read on the screen, who have the people with disabilities in general. I'll come to that on a later stage and so on. So each video must be accompanied by a transcript just to make provision and accommodate people with disability. And this is just of the videos that I've indicated here, and all videos must come together with a source link so that the student who prefer to download the video on a later stage and the transcript can do so later. You also need to include the source that you have utilized and the number of minutes for data purposes in this in the space where the data is extremely limited for the students and so on. So students can think and reconsider whether they want to download the video that's 3 minutes, 36 seconds now or a later stage, or on campus, or when they are at a hotspot who provide free Wi-Fi at a particular stage and so on. Now, many times when you see this, it doesn't mean that the video is unavailable. The video is available. It's just when the links have been broken or copied and are not transferred to the next course, you can upload the video again, or you can click on the video again to watch the video. You don't have to panic when you see this particular black portion. The video is available in Blackboard. Then I'm just going to stop there, Arno, before I go to the readings and the introduction of a particular assignment or assessment. And you can take over.
Right, thank you, Melvin. Ladies and gentlemen, I see there's a question specifically on transcription tools. I usually get my transcriptions from YouTube. And I've got my own YouTube private channel, so I can send videos through that and get the transcription from that. But that's a workshop completely by itself. It's very easy to do, but if that's required, one can arrange such a workshop at a later stage, and I'll show you how to do that. Right, to summarize what Melvin has pointed out for us is there on the screen. The alignment, still between my assessments and outcomes and the content, grading policy or grading scheme weighting, clear instructions, and the sequence, and to add on to Kibi's question, to say something and elaborate about the sequence. It means that even though you first put in, students have got a sequence they have to follow within the learning journey. We call it a sequence of events. Your assessment by itself, so whether it is make a product or write a test or write an exam, that sequence must also address the issues in the same sequence you followed the course. So if I've started with what is a leaf on a tree, then my first questions in the exam or test would be about the leaf. aligned with the outcomes. If I continued throughout the course so that students could describe photosynthesis, then my last questions in the test or exams would be short descriptions related to photosynthesis. So these things must align also I cannot ask the last part I've addressed first in a question paper. It must relate. It must be like a table in sequence. And then, as Mel pointed out, opportunities for feedback, which should be ample. Right, so if I continue to standard 5, we are now getting to the actual instructional material. So that's the stuff you put up there for students to help them to learn the actual, some people might refer to it to content, but we refer to all 8 standards as content. So instructional material, then we say it should contribute to the achievement. We cannot put something up there because it's a funny video, but it has nothing to do with the actual course content or what the student is supposed to achieve. If you've got a short introduction to grab the student's attention, by all means, you can do wonderful things, but ensure that you don't put unnecessary material or unrelated material in the course. That you want students to see 2 minutes of a 10-minute video, and now you put the whole video up there. Then number 2, the purpose of the material and the use thereof must be explained and easy to use. In other words, watch this video, see how this guy cooks or boils an egg, and then describe how to boil an egg in the next assignment. 5.3, all the materials should be cited correctly. You'll be provided with a style sheet from this presentation, and the style sheet includes what are the fonts used, how big or what the size of the fonts are, so that we are visually impaired and online and screen ways of reading to avoid screen tiredness. What is the easy to read part? What colors should be used? What is the UJ color? Should we rather put black text on a white background or the other way around? All those things are addressed in the style sheet. Melvin also mentioned earlier on how big the banner is on the screen or a picture. Those specifications and parameters are all given in the style sheet. Then 5.4, all the instructional material used are up to date. I just want to stop that because there's actually 2 things in that line for me. Up to date, I cannot use 1970 resource if it is not applicable today. If it's a classic reference that you want to use, then rather refer students to watch that in their own time, but don't make it part of the course's time and the notional hours being used. And then, of course, our copyright, the appropriate permissions from DALRU, it's all the Design, Art and Literacy Rights Organization, DALRO. And if you use music and certain other stuff, SAMRO, the South African Music Rights Organization, they work with performing rights also. Just when you broadcast a song in a background or something publicly, you must just check that you have the rights or the performing rights or the publishing rights for that. It works just like literature and pictures. And then 5.5, a variety of the material in the course. I cannot use only video. I cannot use only reading material. See over the internet what is available. If you cannot get the copyright, then please acknowledge what you are using very clearly. Right, let me go and summarize standard 5 for you. And we've done this in the form of questions. If I look at the materials, do all my materials contribute towards the actual learning of the student? Or am I just decorating the page? Are they all cited and credited? And do I have the appropriate permission to use certain things? Else it must be very clearly cited, or I must at least inform the publisher of the materials that it's being used. And do I have a variety? Variety is very important. Even behavioristic, that's why there's advertisements sometimes in the middle of movies and programs on television as well. Right, let's go to standard unit stand or the standard 6 that is being evaluated. Right, now activities can be a whole nomenclature, a whole classification by itself. There was a workshop where I address all the types of activities. I'm not going to do it here. The idea is activity can be between people, online, interactivity as well, or for the student to, for a moment, leave the computer or the device, go and do something related to the work, and to be able to achieve the outcome and come back to the course and either submit or report on what has been done, of course, on different levels, easy to more applicable applications. So it's also related, which is highly acclaimed now in education, and that's the activity theory, which I'm very fond of. We learn by doing something and then reflecting on what we have done. So the learning activities promote that achievement of the started outcomes and the competencies. So if a student gives something back to you or reflect, you are immediately able to assess to what extent the student has achieved, not doing the assignment, but the outcome or outcomes you have specified. Then the activities must provide opportunity for interaction. It must support active learning. Students must do. Once I asked someone, so what activity are the students doing? And they said to me, they are reading. That's a basic, that's not an activity. That's a given. Reading, and unless you podcast and students have to listen, but they still have to summarize or give their own feedback. That would be the activity that's being done. So the instructor's plan for interacting with learning during the course is clearly stated. Then the requirements for learner interaction is also clearly stated. For this activity, you would need a plastic bag and a 2-liter plastic bottle. Go out in the field and whatever they must do with those materials. Then fill out this form and post it back to me or submit it. We are looking to see if you have discovered, and you give them the rubric or the outcome. Right. Melvin, do you at this stage want to say something about this or show the lecturers?
Yeah. In terms of the sequential build-up to a particular assignment, I see there's an echo. Yeah. In terms of the activities and the interaction, there's readings that the lecturer provided in the slide or in this on the display, where the lecturer introduced the topic research, indication that a PowerPoint will be provided so that the student can read. The material has been given to the student in terms of the preparation in preparing the students for the activity that will be following. Now, many a times the lecturers will either provide a PowerPoint presentation, a reading, and a video in lieu of what's to follow. So the student will read the article, prepare themselves by providing answers to the questions that have been posted by the lecturer. So then after the students have prepared themselves, there will be either a survey or a quiz in terms of probing the students' comprehension of the topic that's been posted. Also, make provision for the learning material that will be followed together with the links that will be provided. And then I'm just going to scroll to after the lecturers have provided the content, a quiz will be followed. Now the quiz is a follow-up in terms of the expectation after what the lecturer has indicated. The following quiz covers the key concepts or the key research questions as discussed or as being provided by the lecturer through the learning material that's followed up front. So there'll be 5 questions and 5 marks. So there's clear instructions. The expectations have been set out clearly. You have 2 attempts of 10 minutes. The highest mark will be recorded. You'll be given feedback, as Arno indicated, immediately after the quiz has been concluded. And you need to complete the quiz on a specific date, and at a specific time. So there's a clear expectations in terms of the quiz, that is the amount of marks and the feedback that will be following. Together with that is not also the reading, and the activity that will be followed, which I think is promoting interaction, is a discussion forum where the student need to prepare himself or herself in terms of the assignment that's to follow. So the discussion is not just a discussion in terms of discuss a topic. There's clear instructions provided to the students in terms of what is required from you or her. In other words, a total of 5 marks is awarded for the quality of your contribution to the discussion forum. A rubric will be given. Again, the netiquette has been stressed out. And the discussion will be open for 1 week. And contact your lecturer or your tutor with questions concerning. In other words, the students can't just post a discussion without the proper reading or without the proper preparation up front. Then you need to post your deliberations or your thoughts or your ideas, and the question that will be posted and the instructions that will be given is clearly right. You create a thread and post your thoughts on Blackboard using no more than the amount of words. In other words, it is structured, reflection to be followed. Why you conducted, and the questions will be answered by the students. And you would only be allowed to view other students' work unless you have posted your comment or your thoughts. In other words, you can't just look what the other students have posted without providing your thoughts or your deliberations on the discussion posts and so on. And after that, an assignment will be following. And the assignment, using the knowledge that you've acquired over the course of the week, based on the information that you have gathered, based on the discussion board that you have engaged in your own research skills, you will be then submitting a assignment based on the following titles or themes. The research theme, the amount of words will be given to you, research question or context. In other words, proper guidelines, proper instructions will be given by the lecturer in terms of the expectations of the assignment. And then finally, the style sheet that Arno has alluded to, when the assignment must be submitted, and then also a rubric that's to be provided to the student. And at the end of the day, a submission has to be done by the students and so on. Then lastly, just a summary of the week, what the lecturer has inserted in terms of the expectation for this week and what's to follow. Other lecturers prefer a brief audio clip or a video in terms of next week or unit 2 or theme 2. you will be required to do X, Y, and Z, or you can expect X, Y, and Z in preparation for the following week. Now, this is an example of one particular template that I was alluded to. I will later, as Arno just explained afterwards, toggle just to the education faculties, one of the units that we'll be working on, so that you can see the difference in terms of the layout and structure and the learner guide that's been embedded in the content. Over to you, Arno.
Thank you so much, Melvin. So to summarize how Mel has pointed out, all of this now to us is actually there. If we see, you ask yourself these questions. Is the student actually learning what he or she should? Is the achievement within his or her reach? Are the students required to be actively involved in their learning? And the instructor involvement, very important, and Mel has pointed it out very well. Have you indicated what your role as the lecturer is in the learning process? So you would write down there, I will give you feedback post your self-assessment back to me. Then we can discuss it. Or I will provide feedback on whatever you've done, just as long as the student can see that you are present as part of the learning process. You're part of it, helping them to do it. And then this question, does the student know exactly what is expected from him or her? Of course, stated in the outcomes, but also in the activities, the assignments, and in the rubrics. Show them what is expected. Right, let's get to the second last standard, standard 7. Now we've dealt with content. We've dealt with the flow of a lecture and a specific micro lecture or something in the module smaller. So it works smaller and bigger on a macro level, but it works in the exact same way when we plan. Now we get to the actual technology or the module technology. So the tools that I use in this module, will it help or does it support the outcomes or the competencies? That's what I have to ask first of all. Now, many people will look at that statement in a superfluous manner and say, right, but if a student doesn't have access to Blackboard, then it means they don't have the tools. And that's where you as a lecturer come in with the planning and the module. If, let's say, Wi-Fi is off, do I perhaps have a way of using the library as a tool? Might I be able to refer the student to a WhatsApp group to continue the activity? Do I only have to use Blackboard tools? Or are there other tools out there that I can also use? Technology. Maybe through WhatsApp, maybe there's an app that can be used and downloaded. So I must think a bit wider than only the Blackboard tools available. The Blackboard tools also helps to accumulate and bring everything together. But while the activities are happening, maybe students might use other tools or share other tools that they're using with you and the other students in such a support forum, for instance. Right, the tools that I then use in the module must promote engagement, learner engagement. So that's intellectual and actively motivated learners. They're engaged with the content and they are doing something. It's active. Then is a variety of technology used? Or do I only use WhatsApp throughout my whole course? Or I only use a video to be watched in YouTube for the whole course or for the whole module? Do I have a variety? Because nowadays our students use Google, they use YouTube, they download apps, they look for those apps themselves because the apps might change, so we don't want to be too prescriptive with what they should use unless you think it is the best at this stage for them, because that's how it works in our modern world in industry. People look for what is working and helping them. Then 7.4, the module provides the learners with the information on protecting their data and privacy. So do I tell students, if you're using WhatsApp, don't put your home address on the WhatsApp page. When you talk in a module or in a discussion in the student support forum, be careful not to disclose personal information about yourself and all the data that can be protected and the security surrounding it. Blackboard is within UJ, so everything inside Blackboard is protected as the student and all staff logs in with their own credentials and password. No one can get in there and break it. But the idea is, are students aware that in Blackboard you are very protected? But if you go into Facebook or WhatsApp, you might be not that well protected. So be careful what information you reveal about yourself and others, and your own protected data like your marks or your financial statement or whatever. Is just be careful what you reveal. So that is how the technology is then, or the module technology in general. So the focus on this standard is more on the use of the technology and how do we use the technology. So it's not about the tools, and it's not about where to click and where to tick and those things one discovers. This is about the technology in the module. Right, so that is standard 7. If I then move over and I summarize this, there are the questions. Have the Blackboard tools used assisted in attaining the outcomes for the students? If they don't, I find other tools, and the cheapest ones are in open source. Mostly they are free, so I don't always have to buy something. Then tools used, are the Blackboard tools used requiring student involvement? In other words, if I watch a video, do the student only watch? Is there maybe a tool added like, let's do a quick voting poll on your opinion about this video? Do I use a variety of these different tools? And then the POPI Act in general with the technology and the protection of information and the privacy of the individual. So those things are very important. There, for instance, that last part of the question, or may it be used if they are downloading and using an app? So one can think about that as well. One doesn't have to be paranoid about it, but just careful for sharing information. Melvin, do you want to say something about these two standards at this stage, or can I continue?
Yes, continue. Then
right. So let's get to the last standard. Standard 7 was about the technology in the module, or let's call it module technology. Now, if I get to standard 8, the very difficult part, which will come and bite us in the back if we don't always give it or pay attention to this. And that is the accessibility and the usability of the course. One lovely model I use in research that I do is about TAM, TAM3. That's the technology acceptance model. And this is how we and our students as people look at technology. It has to do with two phases. How easy A program, a piece of technology, a piece of software can be used. And on the other level, what is our perception of the ease of using it? Some people might say it looks complex, but it's easy to use. Or it is not easy to use, but it is such a user-friendly program. Then one gets a bit of confusion causing there. So the usability has to do with these features. 8.1, the course navigation facilitates the ease of use. In other words, it's easy to use this because I know where to click, and if it says assessments, it is an assessment. If it says learning guide and I click on it, I'll find a learning guide. So it's straightforward, and I can navigate and see on one screen where I can go to. I know nowadays people don't like scrolling down more than once. So the amount of stuff on the page also makes a difference. The course design facilitates readability, and that directly refers to the style guide. The font size, the use of color, the format, the video sizes, etc. Is it standardized? Are all videos the same size on the page? Are all fonts the same fonts on the page? So it has to do with consistency, and it has to do with readability. Then under 8.3, the course provides accessible text and images in files, documents, our system like Blackboard pages and web pages for the need of the diverse learner. So, for instance, if I have a blind or a visually impaired student who wants to write a test, then at this stage we've got voices talking back, computer voices, or programs like JAWS facilities talking back to the visually impaired student. But to give you an example, in Blackboard, the selection of options under a multiple choice question, we placed by default vertically. In other words, option A, option B, C, and D are written underneath each other because the reader for the blind person can read the options. But Blackboard also has an option to place it horizontally, that option B is next to option A, and option C next to option B. So A, B, C, and D are horizontally in one line. And then the reader, even the Adobe Reader, has difficulty reading the different options back to the visually impaired person. So that's but one aspect of hundreds that exist. So that's why we say, can I access this text also with images? Is it in a file? Is there that yellow flag popping up saying this image is diagram A? All those things for accessibility and voices. Then 8.4, the course should provide alternative means of access to multimedia. All those contents. If I've got a video, does the video have sound for the visually impaired, or does the video might have subtitles for the hearing impaired? Also important. And can I download the video for someone to watch at home if they don't want to be online the whole time? And there's a very important aspect pointed out there. Avoid tables on the screen, because screen readers cannot always read tables back to a visually impaired person. Then are your module multimedia usable for all learners? I might design a beautiful game for all my students to play, but let's say I've got 5 visually impaired students in my class. What is the use of that game to them? So I must see that I either have an alternative way, or that game caters with the accessibility and the usability. And a simple example on a different level, that game is designed to work through Blackboard, but can my students play that game on their phones, their smartphones, for instance? I must take all of that into account. And then the last option, my vendor, whoever provides for me, like Blackboard, accessibility statements are provided for all technologies required in the course. Right, Mel, over to you.
Thank you, Arno. Yes, I just want to make an example of the module that I was talking to or alluded earlier in terms of the different approach that one can have. But before I touch on the module, it's English for the primary school 1B. Is that reflected on your screen as well? Arno, just give me a...
Yes, no, it says theme 1, research methodology.
Okay, so I just want to do this. You can see the English for primary school 1B.
That's right, it's on the screen.
As I've indicated earlier, this is a different approach in terms of how you structure your menu and also your content. But Arno, you have touched a very sore point in terms of the accessibility issues. Based on the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1, and there's also an updated one that currently came out, it's a 3.1, in terms of the accessibility, the screen reader program from Microsoft, how you can accommodate people with disability. And I'm just going to speak on that just a minute or so. But the questions that you need to ask yourself in terms of the universal design principles and also the what we've spoken about is the equitability use. Are the fonts accessible, as you mentioned, Arno, to not all students, but also to cater for people with disability, visually impaired, people who are deaf, people who are dumb, or whatever the case may be. How flexible is your module? Can you navigate easy in your menu or through your menu? How simple and intuitive are your content? Is it predictable? Is it straightforward? Can you click with one click and you go into the content? The perceptibility, how visually and auditory stimulating are your content or your videos or what you present to the students? And the tolerance of error. And I think we must this particular point. Many a times when we design on Blackboard, or when you think about designing your program, do you consider that there might be people with disability in your group or your class? And do you make provision for that, especially when you start using colors in your content? And I'll show you what Arno has just indicated in terms of the Blackboard ally that can assist you, and also the accessibility checker to indicate to you that the color codes that you have utilized, or the font spaces, the font and the spaces that you've utilized in your content is not preferable to students with difficulty or people with disability. But this is just an example of how this particular lecture has set out her particular module. I'm just going to quickly scan through how me, the lecturer, and this is what the lecturer has indicated, together with availability hours, consultation hours. And also what is also nice is the tutor details. And she gave a brief summary of the tutors. They gave introduced themselves, their office hours, and the link, Telegram link or WhatsApp link that they can be contacted or engage with other students. And I think this is something nifty that one can consider in your course. Then the module overview quickly is just the welcome, and there you see the small video that the lecturer has recorded in her own comfortable space introducing a topic and introducing herself to the students in terms of the expectations for this particular journey. The outcomes has been stated clearly, demonstrate up until compile. This prescribed material has been stated clearly there where the students can locate. And then a very detailed module overview in terms of the units, the weeks that will be covered, the dates, the descriptions of lecturers, the weekly task, and also I'm just going to scroll to the right hand side here quickly so that one can see. And the main assignments, giving the students a bird's eye view of the expectations for either a semester or if it's a year course, a year course. And then at the bottom, I'm going to scroll quickly, sorry for space. The teaching philosophy and the design principles that are embedded, and I think what's really encouraging is the design principles, what we just spoke about in terms of inclusivity here. You will find the following principles inform everything you will encounter in this course. She spoke about inclusive access, growth-based assessment, and rich engagement-based activity, and also unbroken feedback loops. Now, this is very important to me, and also I've indicated to the lecturer, let's include this so that students can see where we go into and what's important for them in terms of everybody is accommodated for in this journey to reach the particular outcomes. Then on your left-hand side, you see there's chunks that have been very neatly broken into or down. This is where you will find the assessments and feedback. All assessments activities are under assessment matters. If I click on assessment matters, it gives me a breakdown of all the assessment activities, the assessment scheduled, the calculated marks, the importance of that, which assignment counts what, is it formative or is summative or whatever the case may be, the late submissions information, the number of days. So you see, as indicated earlier, that the study guides information is embedded in the content here. What will be happening with SIC test or assessments, the student declaration for task or authentications or authenticity, and then avoid plagiarism, just a regulation that's been embedded or inserted here. Then all the submissions of tasks and assessments will be here. All the students' marks, I'm just clicking quickly. So you have your assignments, all the links are here. It's clear, and students can just click. When you click, there's a rubric attached to it, and the submission link is being provided for the students. Then my marks will follow. The students can follow his or her activity through my marks and see what task or assessments or assignments is still outstanding. We have the communication tab, and all the content is embedded in this particular content folder here. But before I click on this, I just want to highlight here, as indicated, student admin and support. If I click on that, all the guidelines has been provided here in terms of where to find what academic support, tutor support, where can I get help. Policies and documentation are embedded here. All the regulations are stipulated here. Even the bus services, where you can just update to 2021, seeing that we on and off campus and so on, seeing that it's education, the code of conduct. So you will find, in a nutshell, embedded all the particular student admin and support documentation in one space. Then when I click on the module content for week 1 to week 14, a menu has been provided so that the student can follow in terms of which week we are in and what to be submitted. So it's neatly tabled in this table of content before we get to the content and so on. And then this content has been sequentially released so that the students can follow. This will be week 1, unit 1, and we'll do poetry. There's the introduction, and the student can follow in the table of content. Very neatly done by the lecturer. So Arnold, this is the alternative module as an example here for as indicated earlier. Just to continue there before I just go to the accessibility checker.
Yes, I'm happy there. Do you want me, because I've only got the last summary to do,
Yeah.
So if you want to do the accessibility, that's perfect. Thanks.
Just want to go to something, yeah. Yeah, I just wanna let me see, it's off here. I need to access it here. Let me just go out here quickly.
Right. While Melvin is getting that up, I'm quickly going to put a summary or to show you where at the end of this presentation, what is available. So there on your screen, you can see the standards and the rubric document is available from this presentation. I can click there and it will be downloaded for me. So it's quite a large rubric, and that's why, and you can see all of these things are stipulated, and it is available there from the specific website. Then furthermore, the style sheet, this is where it is, and if I click here, it will open up a PDF document. There's the whole style sheet related to UJ and our marketing division. Everything is placed here and what is needed for online programs, how it should look like and how slides should look like, what is there. Right, then also the other option we've got here's the procedure for Delro permission and the permission form, which can be filled out. Right. So this is all, and that's the end of this, or one of the last slides of this presentation. And I'll come back to it in a few minutes. So let's just give Melvin opportunity. Thanks, Mel.
Okay. Yeah. So in front of you, you will see in module introduction, and I know not all of the lecturers are doing this particular highlighting piece or wanting to exemplify certain crucial elements of your content. Now this highlighting with different colors will not suffice for people with disabilities in general. So what I want you to show you is when you go to your module and you click on the content so that you can see where you need to scroll to ensure that your content is accessible to people with, for instance, nearsightedness or people that are blind, that can't see the color codes that you've utilized. So basically there is an accessibility checker in Blackboard, and on your scroll bar you'll see there's this icon here. It indicates to you it's an accessibility checker. So what you will utilize is, or what you will use is that you will just highlight the whole content or the whole portion, and you just scroll to your accessibility checker. Once you click your accessibility checker, there will be an error. Obviously, the error will tell you images must have an alternative text description. Decorative images are not allowed. In other words, I, as a person that are nearsighted or have challenges with looking at a screen like this, will not be able to see this or what the lecturer was trying to say to me in terms of the content. So you will click on repair, and what the system will do, the system will provide, and we call it the Blackboard Ally, will provide an alternative text. Like you see, the alternative text cannot be emptied, but the system will then automatically make provision for a person with disability, and the system will then synchronize this information here so that the person with disability will be able to see this. So you will have then, based on the accessibility checker, then will utilize for instance, I will then go back just to show you. I would go back and we'll just scroll there and just make this color code, say none, and submit. So once I've done that, I can go back to the checker. Highlight the portion, for instance, quickly. Click on accessibility checker. Issue 1 of 3. There's still an error there. I have then to go back and repair that particular error. Right. So you don't have to worry about this. There is like I indicated, a Blackboard Ally algorithm built in Blackboard that will alter or that will rectify this for a person with disability in order for the person to see that. Now, there are a vast amount of content created simultaneously and continuously by many different people, making it hard to understand how or where institutions need to improve, let alone what legal risks there are, because this is a very serious matter. Making instructors aware of the impact of accessibility can be extremely difficult in providing the required accommodation to students. Now, on top of that, accessibility leads to the quality and usability improvement that will ultimately benefit all students. Now, this ally that I've been talking about is dedicated to helping you and your course content to make it more accessible. And the machine uses learning algorithms to automatically provide alternative formats for course content throughout your module. And it also checks and scores content in a course. It then provides feedback and detailed guidance of how to fix it in terms of the color codes and space and so on. And lastly, it provides us on the other side, our instructional designers also with meaningful information in terms of what to be looked at and understand how the institution is doing in terms of accessibility and analyze course content into the institution-wide report. And that will be provided and we can look at it and so on. Okay, Arno, that is where I'm going to stop in terms of the accessibility challenges and concerns that people might experience in their module.
Okay, thank you, Mel. Right, I've got, there's 3 questions that popped up here, and I'll quickly try and address those questions. With the POPI Act, can I share student information with other students? If you have a student platform, like we've suggested in the beginning, students can meet one another there online in the course when they introduce themselves, and that is where they will match up. If you have done it in the course in Blackboard, then they don't have to share home addresses and things like that. Then students have already introduced themselves and meet up in the online environment, because then you don't have to share specific information with other students. Then Devi also asked, expand a little more about the Dalro. That there's a lot of things, but if you look at the name of Dalro, it would be designs and artistic things that I'm going to use. I want to show one of Picasso's paintings. That one with that funny painting of the woman they've just discovered. I want to share that with my students. Then I must just reference perfectly where I got that picture or that graphic from. So if it is referenced properly, it is all right. But if you're going to use this throughout your course, then I would ask for copyright or ask permission to use this in your course throughout the year. Else, if it is referenced perfectly, just ensure that your students don't download it and disseminate the information or the picture or whatever you are using for their own benefit. That's actually a whole discussion by itself. Then another question, how do we support first-year students exposed to Blackboard for the first time? We've been doing it for years, and that's what's on the screen here. We give our first-year students a letter where they've got direct access to our organizations only set up for first-year students. I've got a lot now that I'm responsible for. But for instance, here we have the first-year orientation module, and there's one for each faculty. So our instructional designers and interns and sometimes tutors join in live in Blackboard Collaborate at a specific time given to the students, and the students would click on their specific module as first years, and then they are guided right through the whole process. Here it's an example of CBE. It will look different in 2022, but more or less have the same. There's the whole student toolkit, what they need, who they can contact, and we also have a free Blackboard course we take all students through, and then there's practicing stuff they do at their own pace and own speed. Here you can see they've got all the information in here needed by first-year students. So they are fairly au fait with using Blackboard if they join these sessions as they're supposed to during orientation. Then what I want to end off with is all of us in here, ladies and gentlemen, if you you log onto your Blackboard options, your site, under organizations, you find a specific module that's open to all lecturers, lecturing, teaching staff, actually everyone at UJ. And if I click on the UJ Online Teaching Toolkit, I can find everything and all the info related to the online learning of this university in here. All your instructional designers, their contact details, and also in here a how-to, quick, alphabetically listed for Blackboard users. Just visit these sites, and here, if you look further, there's our quality management and quality matters documentation that we have discussed today. You will find the presentation here, the sample rubric is here as an Excel file, the standards, the presentation that I've used this morning, the style sheet, all of it is available here. So it is the community 002 in Blackboard, UJ Online Teaching Toolkit. And you find references also in there and to everything that Mel has presented. And I also say thank you to Mel. I think we do a good tandem presentation. I'm quite happy this morning. So let me just give people opportunity to see if we have any other questions. Right. So Mel, you and I were very clear, or people are astounded with what had happened. I don't know, Mel, if you've got a closing remark to make, perhaps? Thank you, Paul.
Just to indicate in terms of the DALRO, Arno, some of the lecturers, sometimes there are important chapters in books that they want to include in the modules. There is a form, it's called the ECR form, that you can get from the library people just to fill in the form. And once they've given you the go ahead, I think it's, what's his name? Mariam and the team. And also, okay. Yeah, they can assist you with that and so on. Once the form has been submitted, yeah, the ECR form, then it's good to go to upload the chapter or chapters on Blackboard. But always take cognizance of the fact that you can only upload 10% of a book in your module, not all of the information, unfortunately.
Yes, very important. And the librarian allocated or dedicated to your department or faculty can also help you with that, and the intellectual property officers. But usually the librarian is very au fait with what is happening there. Yes, the Tapelo and Tapelo Mashinini in the library is the name I get here from Charmaine.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I think then Mel and I conclude with this and we say thank you for your time. And you know now where to find these guidelines, the rubric, the presentation, which you are more than welcome to use to self-evaluate your courses. And you know, if you've taken yourself through this process, it eventually becomes a habit with courses, and you know your students will effectively be educated through the online system and through all your courses. So thank you very much for that. If we've got an MC here, I want to hand back to you. And with that, I want to say thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. Thank you, Mel.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, profs. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Anna. Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you, Prof. Debate. Thank you, colleagues, for attending this session. It was very insightful for me and most of you, I believe. We're going to play out with some lovely music to take you through the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We need that music.
I wanna be there when the people start to turn it around, when they triumph over poverty. I wanna be there when the people win the battle against AIDS. I wanna lend a hand. I wanna be there for the alcoholic. I wanna be there for the drug addict. I wanna be there for the victims of violence and abuse. I wanna lend a